Good evening. Welcome to Good Guys Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke, alongside with our co-host, the two Blakes and Mike Roby. We um we are going to talk some baseball and some other sports talk in a second, but we are going to begin with the men's and women's Final Four. We start us off with the women's Final Four. That would be against Caitlin Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes and Paige Becker's UConn Huskies, who are back as a finalist for this year's for this year's Final Four team. It will be one of the biggest matchups, as they favor UConn to win in this game, despite Caitlin Clark's success for this year's tournament. Getting there, it was a bit of a challenge. So I do think that Coach Gino and will have something to come up with in their playbook to try to slow her down. And I do think it'll be some game to watch, as this would be one of the this would be one of this would be probably one of the must watch games, probably in all of the men's or women's tournaments. So I think that Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark, numbers they put up, just just really off the charts if you really look at it, and just really just what would be a great matchup. And you're going head to head against the great coach of Gene Aramulema, who is by far one of the best coaches out there in all of probably in all of basketball. And I do think that really she has won AP Player of the Year and is entering her final year and eligible for the upcoming WNBA draft, and she should be very excited. Now, on the flip side, we have NC State taking on the Gamecocks of South Carolina.
The undefeated Gamecocks.
That's right, the unbeaten Gamecocks, and this one easily favors South Carolina, and so this is what this and so they take on NC State, and what I think should be a fascinating matchup, which should be a close game. But I think that at the end of the day, South Carolina will always find a way to win, and will most likely move on and to play in the national championship game. Even though NC State is a pretty good sneaky team, but but um but like I said, I think South Carolina is going to win this game pretty easily, hands down. Now let's go to the men's side
Well, hang
and
on. I,
talk
I gotta
about
give
this
some
side.
I gotta give some opinions on these women's games here, man. You can't just breeze through them like that.
I know, but I just wanted to break it all
Nah,
and just before
yeah,
I
no, I think in the I agree with you. South Carolina will probably end up being too much for the Wolfpack. I think it's a good story. NC State obviously on both sides, men and women's making a run to this point. But yeah, I think South Carolina is the best team. They're undefeated for a reason. So I wouldn't expect that trend to stop against the Wolfpack, although I would like to see an upset there, but I think South Carolina will take care of them pretty easily. But UConn Iowa game is going to be a really interesting one, like you said. Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark, two big stars, two great shooters. It's usually whenever you got those big matchup with the big players. We saw in the previous round against LSU, Caitlin Clark was shooting the lights out, and she's certainly going to have a green light in that game against Connecticut as well. So, if she shoots as well as she did in that previous game, they're going to be tough to stop. I think that game is going to come down probably to the last shot. I think Coach Auriemma will have a game plan, won't he? He's traditionally one of these legacy college coaches that he's seen it all. So, has he seen somebody the level of Caitlin Clark? Maybe not quite that level of a shooter, But you'd have to think Gino is going to have some sort of game plan. So maybe keep an eye on the foul, some early foul calls in that game as well. If UConn tries to be a bit more physical, kind of getting Caitlin Clark's face, not give her the time, see how quick of a trigger the refs have in terms of calling that first foul.
The run and gun. I mean, Caitlin likes to hit those 3-pointers. Those vast majority of her shots were 3-point attempts this year. Becker actually has a higher percentage for field goals.
Right.
But it's going to be a fun game.
Did you guys watch that last game? I mean, the crazy thing about her 3-pointers and almost shooting 50% is they knew that and they were closing out on her. I mean, very few of those shots she was open. She had a hand in her face. She was 4 or 5 feet behind the 3-point line. I mean, she's fun to watch.
Yeah. They couldn't do anything about it, could they?
No, it was a blast. And I think the ratings on that game
were phenomenal.
Incredible.
They had higher ratings for that game than the game 7 of the World Series.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. There's this
crazy.
It's, on one hand, it's a great thing for the game, but you do wonder, if they'll have the same level of stars coming in year after year, or is this a bit of an exception? I think it will. The women's Final Four will definitely maintain a good level of interest for sure because of how big it's been this year. But it's tough to see them getting that concentration of stars. It's kind of like, I think certain NBA, WNBA, men's, women's basketball, you get that concentration of players in the similar age. Like thinking of the early, around 2003 draft class for them in the NBA that had like LeBron, Carmelo, and D Wade and stuff like that. These guys that all come through like USA basketball along the same age and play together and compete against each other on different teams. It's kind of reminds me of how it is in the college game right now, and ideally that will translate to the women's professional game as well next year. But all these players, like the players on LSU, the players in Iowa, Connecticut, etc., South Carolina as well, they're all kind of that similar age. It seems like a bit of a golden generation for women's college basketball. So yeah, I'm really excited for these games tomorrow night. But I'm taking UConn. I'm taking South Carolina, Iowa in the Final Four, and I'm gonna roll with Iowa all the way. I think it's gonna. I'm picking the storyline, and I'm picking Caitlin Clark to go all the way and beat South Carolina in the final.
Not so fast, Blake. Not so fast. I completely agree with you. I'm with you on the road to the final too, but I think Dawn Staley in this she's got more accolades than probably anybody, men or women's side, when it comes to playing, coaching, and I think she's going to bring a defense. I think it's going to be a 3 triple team on Caitlin Clark, and then her girls are so good too. We're going to handle the other 4. And I'll tell you what, the other girl that can shoot is going to have to really step up. She's been great already, but if she can step up, they'll do it. They'll do what you said, Blake. If not, I think my Gamecocks are going to get a perfect. Now, I wonder how many perfect seasons in men and women's have been completed.
It's a good question. I was wondering that myself.
I know UCLA back in the John Wooten days when they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I believe there was an undefeated season there somewhere,
Yeah, so
but I don't know.
UCLA did it twice in the 60s, twice in the 70s under Wooden. And the most recent one was, I'm assuming, this is Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers in the mid 70s, 32-0. I guess less games back then, maybe as well.
So
and
Gino,
yeah,
Gino's never done it. He's gotten close, I believe.
Unless that's just maybe there's a different list for the women's, but
I know he was on a tear. What about 7 or 8 years ago? He was on a tear with the women's teams.
No, I think it's happened. Yeah, it's happened a couple times in women's, mainly UConn. Yeah, so UConn done it 15, 16, 13, 14, 9, 10, 8, 9, 08, 09. Yeah, they've done it like 5 or 6 times actually. Yeah, I think Tennessee did it once, Baylor did it
Yeah.
once. Usually, it's concentrated around like a huge star player or something like that. UConn's kind of the exception to the rule. They've obviously been the dynasty in college, in women's college basketball in the recent past.
Yeah.
But obviously the talent's a bit more spread out nowadays.
I was reading an article today that was saying that Caitlin Clark wanted to be recruited by UConn, and UConn didn't recruit her. So I wonder if there is going to be some extra incentive for her to play against UConn.
It's going to be the chip on the shoulder tournament. Mike, NC State's big man DJ, he wanted to be recruited. Nobody wanted him.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
play at that level. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, you talk about, parity in the in basketball, and in both the men and women's tournaments, all 4 conferences are represented in each: Big East, Southeast Conference, Big Ten, and the ACC.
that's pretty cool.
There you go. There you go.
So
That's right, Mike. And sorry to cut me off, Blake. But speaking of which,
Go for it.
yep. I will continue to go right ahead. And sorry you cut me off, but I will get right back to it. So, with that being said, as you guys mentioned, we have talked about the women. Now we're going to be talking about the men's side of the Final Four, of where I'm standing right behind me right now in the Final Four. Just games are getting set up with the taking place of State Farm Stadium out in Glendale, which I hear is one of the most nicest converted stadiums in the country. So that's something you got to keep in mind for where this Final Four is taking place. So out in the desert where there's mountains and a beautiful place, and they have fall league for baseball too. So, and of course they have Cactus League. So that's one thing to really love about that state. So where this Final Four is taking place and where it's well represented. Now let's focus on the men's side for this year's Final Four. So as you mentioned, the teams both representing the Big East and the Southeastern Conference for both men and women, they also include one of those same teams, which includes NC State and UConn. Now you ask me how did they get here? Well, NC State beat our Duke Blue Devils in the Elite Eight, and it turns out that NC State was the better team in the second half than they were in the first half, and that's where things just went on a run and turned things around. That's how they beat our Blue Devils, and they just came up with a big adjustment for their head coach. Although there was a point in the game where the coach of NC State just got a technical by stepping on the court and got and just got probably he got disqualified or just got a foul on him for doing something that he wasn't supposed to, and that's just how it unfolded. But at the end of the day, despite all that, the NC State Wolfpacks have advanced to the Final Four, and they'll be taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. On the other side, the flip side of that, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide advancing to the Final Four for the first time in school history, and they'll be taking on the reigning defending champions of the UConn Huskies. As much as would be you would be excited about for a great run the Crimson Tide had, I just don't think it's going to last very long. Very long, as they are going to run up against and go up against a tough defending champion UConn team who has been there before, won the championship last year. They're defending champions for a reason. They're about to be basically the final, and you should be very proud for how Alabama got here. But at the end of the day, the run's going to come to an end. I think UConn will eventually beat them, and they'll be advancing to the national championship game. And for the other game, as great of a run NC State had since the days of Jim Valvano, since back in the late early 1980s of how the great run they had against Houston.
Survive in advance,
One
Jack.
time they were in the national championship game, Blake, and I know you're, and I hear what you're saying, but
Survive in advance,
the
baby.
team since the West Weather's position was against Jim Baldano in the 1980s, and I remember watching that highlight time and time again. And as much as you should be proud of this team, I don't think you're going to get it done this time because the Purdue Boilermakers will move their train we get the train running, and one of their star players will get more points and advance to the next round, and the Boilermakers will advance to the national championship game and against UConn, and I have UConn winning back to back in the national championship as my bracket always predicted. And that's who I got. I'm sticking with it, and
Jackson.
yeah, UConn
Jackson.
will win the national championship.
Jackson, you cannot be serious. I'll tell you what I want to see, Jackson. Here's what I want to see. I want you guys to tell me I'm super excited about this NC State Purdue matchup, mainly because of the two bigs. We got two star-studded bigs, but DJ, I believe, is at a maybe, and you guys can help me, and maybe a 6-inch.
Eddie's got a 7-inch reach on him,
Gosh.
and
But
Eddie's got 25 pounds on him.
here's
So
my
they-
question, Mike. What about that belly? I've played people that got
Oh,
a
I
little
know,
belly
I
on
know.
them.
You
But
can-
the-
it's an advantage.
But the thing is, you talk about a team peaking at the right time. NC State has won their last 9 games. They lost their last 4
I thought
games in
so.
regular season,
Yeah.
but going into the ACC tournament, hitting that 3-pointer to tie Virginia,
Gosh.
and then beat Virginia, and they've been unstoppable since. They've got the momentum. They've got the two GJs. I mean, but I think on paper, Purdue, I mean, Eddie scored 40 points against their last opponent. You know, he's averaging 20-some point, 30 he's averaging 30 points and 16 rebounds in the tournament so far.
Jeez.
But you know, if you know the momentum, those things that you can't put your finger on, NC State's got it, man.
But Mike, that's a good point. And what about this guy's shots? DJ's shots, are they gonna be all blocked by this reach? I mean, these are
Yeah.
slow moving, shots. Are they all this could be a problem. I don't
Yeah.
know. This could end up being a blowout. I could see. Now, I will say this. Blake was confused on my blowout call last week, and he was spot on. I said Clemson would get blown out, and I think they won that game. So maybe I should stop making these crazy calls, but I think Purdue might blow him out. If he blocks DJ shots, this could be bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Call me crazy.
Now
So are they going to match up against each other? We expect them to guard each other for most of the
That's
game.
another good question.
Burns and Edie.
That's true. I just assumed they would, but you're right. They might not.
Depends, because you can see it both ways where nobody can really guard Zach Edey, in the country, which is why he's like the best. He wins the player of the year. So can State find the advantage maybe playing smaller lineups? That's probably what all the teams that lost to Purdue so far thought is we'll try and hit him, play small and get Edey out of the paint, etc. Hasn't worked so far. The frustrating part for the previous round with State and Duke was Duke played well in the first half, like Jax had said, but once Burns got going, they just couldn't stop him, and he was getting to the paint, and he was getting every shot that he wanted. You know, I don't want to dig out Filipowski because we've done that plenty on this show in the recent history, but he wasn't really able to match him in terms of a big man physicality. So it'll be interesting to see if Zach Edey is able to kind of put a stop to the run. I don't know if I want to call a blowout like Blake said. I definitely think Purdue is going to win, just because I think ultimately they'll find answers for anything NC State will throw at them. But I can see a scenario where they cause problems in the first half, and Purdue's definitely sweating it out, maybe up to the halfway point of the second half even.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll still take Purdue in that one.
Oh, I think Purdue wins on paper, but I think NC State, if NC State shoots the threes, I got NC State by a smidgen.
Yeah, well, they don't play on paper, do they? So I don't. It's not a crazy pick at all, because obviously, nothing's a crazy pick in March Madness, really. You know, so they're here for a reason, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Jackson and Blake are talking about Alabama as well. I mean, I'm not gonna count them out as well. I think they've been counted out quite a bit, and gosh, I saw, of all these matchups, all these upsets, I did not see any scenario where Alabama would get a victory over UNC in that game, and that one probably shocked me the most. And I think once they got over that game, they're just full of confidence, to be honest. And I think they've got a really good up and coming coach, Coach Oates. He's you know, he's resorting to these barnyard tactics, Coach Oates, feeding the horses, Nate Oates. But nah, it's just a little Oates pun there. But I think he's a good tactician, and he's definitely can match Coach Hurley on the other side of the court in that matchup. So I'm not going to pick Alabama. I think I picked UConn to win it all before the tournament starts. I'm not going to waver from that. They have the best team in the country on paper, and so far they haven't done anything for anybody to think otherwise up to this point in this tournament. So I'm going to pick UConn and Purdue. But I do think UConn and Alabama will be a close game. I think the final score will be within 5 points. I think NC State Purdue probably will end up being like a 10 point margin in the end. But I think Alabama plays good fundamentals. Like I said, they're well coached, so I think they'll keep it close.
Yeah, believe Alabama hit 44% of their 3-pointers last game. Which is phenomenal.
I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but the hot team that makes their shots really can at least keep it close in these matchups, right? And
yeah,
that's rings true, particularly when it comes to March Madness, where there's so much fluctuation game to game. If you make your shots, you've got a really good chance to hang with the big team. So if they can replicate that, there's no reason they can't hang with the Huskies, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a good matchup.
Jack, what do you think? Are we overthinking it? Is UConn gonna win easy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be easy, but I do think UConn's going to find a way to win. Let's say it's double digits. I do think they will win. I think it's just going to come down to the last few possessions, and for Alabama, I think I think it'll be close, but like you guys said, I think UConn is the better team, and I think that UConn will eventually go on to win the game, to play for the rights to move on for the championship.
So I'm picking UConn to beat Purdue in the finals. Is anybody picking different from that?
I I want to pick that. I think it seems like everybody's picking that. I'm gonna say Purdue gets it, and this is the reason why. I don't think Zach Edey's got he might be the best player in the tournament
I
without a
think he
ring.
is. Yeah. No, I agree.
And he doesn't have a ring yet. So he's gonna be I think there's this he kind of made the DJ comment as well that he wasn't really highly recruited and kind of he's playing with a little chip on his shoulder as well. And he does not have a ring yet. So I don't know. They're gonna be hungry.
I think the game is whoever wins NC State Purdue matchup is gonna win the tournament.
Interesting. So you're cold on UConn, Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the game to watch is NC State and Purdue.
Interesting. Interesting.
Purdue is, I mean, it's interesting. They're, you know, they got something to prove. They got a big chip because last tournament they lost to a 16 seed. They were one and done, and they want to prove to themselves. So that's a lot. But then you got NC State coming on like a freight train with all that momentum, and so it's going to be interesting. But I think either NC State or Purdue is going to end up winning it all.
Fair enough. We'll see. He will look very wise come Monday night or whenever the final is, if that ends up happening. Yeah, man. Listen, if NC State wins the title, Raleigh's going to be
Raleigh's going to be rocking.
It's going to be on fire, man. And
yeah, 11 seed coming in and winning the whole thing.
Crazy.
That's nuts. But that's March Madness.
That's March Madness, man.
Yeah.
That's March Madness.
Yeah.
And to recap, the last time the ACC team went on to win the men's national title, Virginia in 2019 against Texas Tech, and that's something that that is something to remember for a team that advanced the last time they won a national title. But you want to go all the way back to where the national championship game was played. The games that were played in Glendale / Phoenix. That would be the UNC Tar Heels that won it. That won it that year.
Yeah. Well, just look at who NC State beat. They beat Texas Tech, Marquette, who was a number 2 seed, and Duke. I mean, so
pretty impressive resume, isn't it?
So they didn't, they didn't just beat anybody. I remember the Marquette game. Marquette kept trying to hit three-pointers, and they couldn't hit any 3-pointers in that game. And I mean, the games weren't necessarily close. I know Duke tried to come back in the second half, and they got within 4 or 5 points, but then the NC State just came roaring back, and they never let Duke come back into the game. So anyway, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it should be. And UNC was the 1 team, and they beat Gonzaga, who's also 1 year. So that's something to keep in mind for what could happen this year in for the game that is taking place in Glendale. But you're right. It's March Madness. Anything can happen. We can all agree with that, whether you like it or not. All right, so let's move on now to some.
Oh, go ahead, Jackson. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. We're sorry about that, Blake. We're going to be moving on to some baseball now. one of Uncle Mike's pastime and favorite sports that he follows. With
What a week. Opening
yeah,
week. What a week.
right, that's right. We'll tell you more about it. Tell you more about it right now. But it's not looking good for your Nationals. They're down 4-0 against the Bucko/Pirates. But I checked the standings overall. The update standings right now in Major League Baseball, and as it stands right now, the Marlins and the Mets are off to a rough start. They haven't picked up their first win of the season. At some point, you got to think they will, but eventually they got to come up with a win at some point. But your
Marlins
Nationals
just
are,
lost another starting pitcher.
yeah, but your
Perez, right?
Nationals,
Yep, he's got a Tommy John. And I mean that's going to be the Marlins problem. They can't get any pitchers to stay healthy.
yeah, and I'm checking the standings right now, and so far your Nationals are only a game back from the Braves, and then follow that up, Phillies right behind them with starting off with 2 wins and 4 losses. But yeah, the Mets, yeah, I want to say they're a Mets mess up there, up in Queens and Flushing Meadows, and yeah, those
Fine
things
by
are
me.
just,
Yeah, I'm crying.
not loving what they're seeing right now
Crocodile
there in
tears.
Queens. But the good news for New York sports fans is that their other baseball team, the Yankees, are in first place, are 6 wins and 1 loss for off to a great start for this season. So that's
Yeah,
where
their rental Juan Soto's hitting the ball pretty well.
Yep. And
Jackson, I wanted to ask Uncle Mike, because you mentioned the Nationals. I just wanted to know because he went to the Nationals home opener, so I just wanted to ask him what his review of the game was and how his experience of the in-person experience at the home opener was at Nationals Park.
yeah, so I heard you went to 2 games so far this year.
Yep.
One of them was both against the Pirates
They're both against the Pirates.
the first day, and then we also heard you went yesterday in the pouring rain where weather wasn't really that great. So but I got to ask you about your even though it doesn't really matter if your team won or lost, but I want to talk about with you and Rory going to the game about your experience as a fan, of how much fun you had about going to the ballpark. I just want to hear about it and about your experience. Like what's that like? Do you sit in your usual seats? Do you change locations for what seats they give you in the ballpark? Like, do you control that, or do they let you sit in your usual seats or at the game, or about where you guys usually you guys go to your usual parking spot and go to your usual seat for the game? I like to hear you all tell us all about it, and I want to hear about what your experience was like for the Nationals game for this season.
Yeah. So since we only have a partial season ticket, which is 20 games, they seat us in the same section, and we ended up being in the same row, but just a few seats over. And then we also got the parking right at the stadium, which was really cool. Opening day is always special. I always try to get there a little bit early to see what's new in the stadium, and just everybody's excited and hyped up. They had the Clydesdales up on the concourse, and then they introduced all of the players. I had forgotten that Michael A. Taylor is now with the Pirates. He used to be a center fielder for the Nationals, and so everybody cheered when he got first at bat. Everybody stood up and cheered, and he tipped his batting cap helmet to the crowd, and that was fun to see. But it was good. I thought we had a chance. Riley Adams hit a home run to tie the game 3-3, and then the wheels kind of fell off, and the bullpen didn't do so well, and we ended up losing the game. But it's always good to be at the ballpark. Enjoyed it immensely. It was good to see the same usher that we've in our seats the whole time. But now yesterday it rained all day here, but I went with a good friend that I used to work with for 10 years, and we went, and there was probably a very small crowd because of the weather, but the Buccos came on top in the second inning, scored 2 runs, and then we scored 4 runs in the bottom of the second inning. Joey Gallo finally got his first hit of the season. It was a upper tier home run, which had to have been a phenomenal shot because it was cold and damp weather, and to hit a upper decker in that kind of weather, it was just a phenomenal home run. I mean, it was one of those ones that soon as you heard it hit the bat, you knew it was gone. And it was just, it was great. So it was always good to come home with the win. And so that was extra special. We're going to go back to the ballpark on Sunday. Philadelphia Phillies are going to be in town this weekend for 3 days.
We had a nice little weekend series against the Phillies. Could have easily been a sweep.
Yeah.
We dropped the third one, but I always love beating the Phillies. They're certainly not a shy team, are they? So
No.
I'll be rooting for you guys.
What is a Philly?
It's just like a name, like a nickname
Yeah.
for the city kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like the Mets stands for Metropolitan. It's really
Yeah.
So
They're the Philadelphias.
yeah.
Pretty
That's
much.
right. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Guys, got a couple of baseball stats, Mike. I want to talk about Blake and Jackson. Last night, the good old AAA White Sox affiliate, which probably tells you why their pro team's not doing great, but we got the Charlotte Knights White Sox affiliate. They lost the game last night. Here's the score. You guys ready? 11. They scored 11 runs, and they got smoked. How was that possible, Mike? They lost 11-26 last night.
That's a college football score right there.
Yeah.
Listen, and another question, Mike and Blake, you might know in Jackson, why it looks like the minor leagues, they play 6 games in a row. They take off Monday, and it looks like all the teams do this, and then they play the next team six days in a row and then take off Monday.
Yeah.
What's going on with this?
Travel expense.
6 days in a row.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Well, I read this book a few summers back. Was called "Where Nobody Knows Your Name." It's all about the minor leagues.
Yeah.
They quoted the manager of the Norfolk AAA affiliate for the Orioles, and his quote was, "Well, if you don't like it here, play better."
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the minors is more about dog day at the park and firework night, and it just seems like more about the baseball atmosphere. I'm going to give you one more stat, and then I'll be quiet. Mike, here's a name. I need your Washington Nationals. You need to patch this through. Have you heard of a guy named Charlie Condon?
I've heard the last name Condon, but
Blake,
sure.
heard of a guy named Charlie Condon, a baseball player?
I have not, no.
He's arguably the best baseball player nobody knows about right now. He's currently batting in the hardest division in the Power 5, which would be the SEC, with the toughest pitchers. And here's his current stats. He's in a slump right now. He was doing better, but he is in a slump. So take these stats with a grain of salt, because he's struggling right now. He's currently batting .481. He has 19 home runs, 41 or 52 base hits, 11 doubles, 1 triple, He's gotten walked 26 times, and like I said, with 19 home runs. Mike, you might
Wow.
want to pass him through. But like I said, he was batting over 500. He's in a little bit of a slump right now. But he's a redshirt sophomore, and he finished last year in the mid 400s as well, batting in arguably the hardest conference when it comes to pitching in Power Five. So this guy might do big things in the majors. Could be a top
Wow.
pick.
Who does he play for?
Georgia, the Dogs.
Wow. Wow.
The
Okay.
Dogs. 481's not bad in college SEC ball, is it?
Hey, that's not bad for any league.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on for sure. Yeah, for sure.
The next Ted Williams.
Could be. Could be. Did anything particularly stick out? I guess we've had the first week of games
Yeah.
up to this point. Most teams have played 6-7 games. Anything stand out? Jackson mentioned the Yankees off to a hot start.
Tigers.
Tigers
Tigers.
undefeated.
Undefeated. The only undefeated team.
I think if I remember correctly, did you somebody pipped them to have a decent season in our preview show last week? Did you call
Yeah.
them out?
I think I did.
Well, I listen, I'm not going to give you an award 5 games into the season,
No,
but
it's
so far so good.
So far so good. No, it's we've had our first no-hitter,
Yeah, I didn't take very long, did it?
And the Dodgers are the Dodgers and the Braves are going to end up being a phenomenal duel. Yeah, you got Mookie Betts with 5 home runs, and
Shohei Ohtani finally broke the drought and scored his first home run in his debut career as a Dodger. And you see sunflower seeds flying over his face, and the fan catching the ball, and the security guard just escorting him out. And that's just because he got all the silver in the earth, because that fan just got whoever that he or she person. Whoever caught it, just probably reason why he got escorted out by security is because he got too much memorabilia stuff from Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if you saw that, but it was a highlight on.
yeah. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, but that's what that person did. Whoever got escorted out by security just did too much by catching by just cutting, I don't know, too much Shohei Ohtani things.
Yeah. Well, Mookie Betts is off to a hot start for the Dodgers. So it looks like that division is probably going to go about how we expected, given the early evidence. They're probably not even going to need Ohtani that much, given kind of the strength of depth in that lineup. And I think similarly as well, watching the first couple of series with the Braves, offense has been really good. A couple of shaky starts so far from the pitching staff. I know Fried had a really rough first game of the year, but luckily our offense picked up the slack. So this could be a year maybe in the National League where the best defense is a good offense in terms of hitting the cover off the ball. There's so many great, particularly now you mentioned the DH coming into the National League as well. There's, I would predict a lot of offense, and we know the Braves had a historic offense last year. I don't see that trend falling off this year as well. So I expect to see a lot of runs in these games.
Now the Braves are a team that can score easily 5-6 runs a game,
easy,
which will be plenty on most nights. Baseball season being a marathon, I mean, every team is going to lose a third of their games, and they're going to win a third of their games. The difference is, what do the teams do with the remaining third? And the problem is, on any given night, they have no idea what third they're playing in. But that's just what makes baseball fun.
Guys, explain this to me for a second. Speaking of baseball, I was a little unclear on Shohei Ohtani. I think I assumed that when he pitched, nights he pitched on, he was also batting. And my students told me out that's not true. He's not batting the nights he pitches. He only pitches. He has a DH for him, or how does
He,
this?
he only DHs now because he's recovering from Tommy John. He'll pitch again next year, but I think when he was pitching with the Angels, the nights he was pitching, he was also hitting.
He was hitting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the way it works, the pitcher doesn't count as a spot in your lineup. So I'm pretty sure you're allowed to have your pitcher be your DH, right?
Yeah.
Is that
That's what they would end up doing, was they would put him as the DH and the pitcher. So he was
yeah,
two
maybe
roles.
sometimes they would give him a rest and stuff like that, but as far as I'm aware, yeah, they would because that's that's a good thing about the DH of it. Well, I say it's a good thing about the DH. There's really only one player that could take advantage of that pitching while also just hitting is Ohtani.
Yeah.
Like there's no other, like, except he is the exception to the rule in terms of utilizing that. And then
Well, except for Max Scherzer when he was with the Nationals, he loved the
yeah.
bat.
yeah, I think that was more out of necessity, given the.
Well, I think that was more out of ego, but
Well, yeah, true enough. Yeah, I would like to see some teams just give a pitcher that's a good hitter, like a pinch hit here and there. I like when funny little occurrences like that happen.
what was interesting, was Arizona, I think it was yesterday. Arizona and the Yankees went 11 innings, and the last one at bat was a pitcher. And the reason is Arizona apparently had a couple guys go out of the game hurt, and the guy who was their DH had to replace the guy in the field, and so he was technically no longer a DH, and so they lost that, and so the last guy to the bat for the Arizona happened to be a pitcher, which is the first time in the National League a pitcher has batted since the DH.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I had not known that rule. If your DH replaces somebody in the field, they're no longer considered the DH any longer, and you lose that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting rule. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So,
Like I had one of in class today in our little baseball field experience. I had one of my football players, and they all have to participate, and it's considered a kind of a tryout for educational purposes. And one of my football players is a tight end. He wanted to get on the mound and throw a pitch in the end, and got his arm a little loose, and he threw 83 today on the mound. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but man, it's
yeah.
So there's a pitcher in that class that's on the dev team, and he said he's only thrown 82 in his life, and this guy with no long toss just gets up there within 40 minutes and throws an 83-mile-an-hour strike.
Yeah,
pretty cool to see.
That is. There's a bar in Atlanta that has a bullpen area in it with a radar gun.
Oh, but that's a blast to watch.
So you can go in there.
And I've seen that. Yeah.
All the bar seats are from the old Fulton County Stadium.
Wow, that's cool.
So you go in there, and I mean, it's guys were getting 50, 60 miles an hour, and they were just hauling back and throwing it as hard as they can.
It's not as easy as people think it is.
It is not easy at all.
It's not. Yeah.
Plus trying to throw it accurate.
Right. Well, that's what they said. They said don't do, because the guy catching it didn't have gear on. They said, I can't remember what's the word for throwing it in the dirt. They said don't. I can't think of the word they use for. In other words, don't, because since he didn't have any gear on, they were like don't. They didn't say ground it. I can't remember what they call it.
Spike it.
Spike it. That's what they said. Don't spike it.
Yeah.
That.
Shoot. It sounds like he's going to be a playing two sports.
What's going on with the Fulton County Stadium? Is Georgia State still using that as a football? Did that ever play
Sure.
out?
Yeah, well, Turner Field now is the old stadium. Yeah. As far as last I heard, they were using it for I don't know if that's still the case, but they were doing that for a little while anyway.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I wanted. Yeah. go
speaking
ahead.
of stadiums,
Oakland
I
A's?
was reading the Oakland A's.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that actually. Yeah.
They're moving out of Oakland to go to a AAA field outside of Sacramento that only seats 11,000 people.
Because
What is
of the
going on there,
politics?
man?
I don't
I've
know.
read about this. It's not looking great, guys. It really isn't. I don't know what sports article or video or media corrects are you're listening to, but whatever they said, it's not great for the sport. And I've heard they're pushing it through 2029. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, I heard they sent their, let's see, what did they do? They benched their only all-star, and then they sent one of their best players down to AAA. Is that right?
Yeah, it probably is.
Then both those guys were wearing the wristbands that are pretty much in protest of them leaving Oakland, and one of the players that were the wristbands got sent down to AAA, and the other one hit the bench. And I think he's the only one that made the All-Star team last year from their team.
Man.
Here's my thing though. Like I have no problem if the A's want to relocate because they've been in the old, no offense to the Coliseum, an old crappy stadium for a long time, and they don't have they don't have a huge payroll. They're just been in the doldrums for a while. But if your plan is to move into a proposed stadium in 2028, you have to have a better plan than moving into a AAA stadium that holds whatever it is, like 14,000 fans in Sacramento for 3 years. Like, I'm sorry, but they're just they're trading in so much, short-term turmoil for the possibility of this move that I guess it's going to happen. I'm assuming they wouldn't go through with this Sacramento plan if they didn't have confidence that the Vegas thing would happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple of years now, obviously, but gosh, I mean, if I'm an A's fan, well, to be fair, given the past couple of years, I wouldn't have much confidence in general, but this is just another just really bad PR look for the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's all coinciding. Tropicana just locked their doors. They are officially done, and renovation will start soon. So I guess the wheels are slowly turning that they will end up in Vegas. Yeah, this could be a cursed team. This could be the new Chicago Cubs. This could be the curse of the Bambino is now on the Las Vegas A's. Or I'm sorry, the Sacramento A's. Sorry.
Yeah, they're gonna temporarily change their name to Sacramento Athletics for 3 years, and I don't know. That just doesn't seem worth it. I think I know the Blue Jays played in the Buffalo minor league stadium, but that was just because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah, that was just COVID.
Like a team
restriction.
moving into a small minor league stadium for 3 years just because. I mean, I know there's bad blood between the A's and the city of Oakland, etc. But gosh, yeah, I mean, that just seems like a last resort measure to me.
If they're gonna move them this fast, do something cool. Move them to Mexico. Try it.
Yeah, I agree.
A test run for a Mexico team in Mexico
Mhm.
City or something. Do something cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just does not seem, of all the available options, it's just hard for me to believe this is the best one. I guess the rationale is keeping the team in Northern California. I mean, yeah, at this point, you might as well just share stadiums with the Giants. It's just a weird result. I don't know. Jack, what do you make of this situation? A bit of a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they are too. But whatever decision the Athletics GM or the people who run this organization did, I feel like what they should do is move it to somewhere like. I feel like they should really move it to the AAA ballpark in Vegas. In my opinion, they should probably move it there, or or they were, I don't know. I've heard some also multiple reports of Kansas City Chiefs and the Royals teams moving out to Vegas too. I've heard multiple reports. I've heard rumors about that, but I don't know if that's true. What article I've read into, but I don't know about that. But for the Vegas stadium situation, yeah, they got to get it right and not move it to Sacramento. They deserve better and just do. And they really should like move it to like somewhere like I don't know, maybe move it up to Canada or Phoenix or probably somewhere where they have more land. I think is where I think they should play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was literally just reading a couple of notes from the article, and so I guess after they leave, so this will be their last season at Oakland, and then next year they'll just be referred to as the A's with no city branding at all is the plan. And I guess
The Sacramento Nomads.
exactly, yeah, you might as well just be the traveling A's,
Traveling
basically.
A's.
The traveling A's. Yeah, that probably would have been a better, but yeah, I guess so the owner or whoever the team president or something has a relationship with the owner has a relationship with the Kings owner, Vivek, Sacramento Kings. So I think that had a part to play in that transition, kind of working with the city of Sacramento, who I guess they're just happy to have a major league team in a minor league stadium. Doesn't really make a lot of
Yeah.
sense to me. And so I guess they had that they're going to lay off a lot of the staff in Oakland, and then some of the Kings employees and the existing people in Sacramento will work for the team. Yeah, I don't know. To me, this seems like a pretty tough story, but yeah, man, if you're an Oakland A's fan, you've just been beaten down these past couple of years, and honestly, I feel bad for them. You know, they're a team with a lot of history. As I'm sure you can attest to, Mike, that they've had a pretty storied past in this league. So it's a little disappointing that the league doesn't kind of stick up for and kind of respect that history of a team being in a location. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's where Reggie Jackson started. Was with the A's.
Yeah, there's a lot of great history. You know, you look back at the the Moneyball, Billy Bean.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of books and movies about that team and kind of that story. So yeah, it'll be disappointing to see a lot of that history wiped away.
Indeed.
But anyway, don't have to
Got
end
a
on
fun little
a negative
stat.
note. But go ahead,
Here's
Blake.
a fun stat right here that the Oakland A's stadium is currently the largest capacity Major League Baseball stadium at
The call
62,000.
the Coliseum.
Coliseum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Coliseum.
That's part of the problem. There's too much capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they're probably the only ones still playing in one of those multi-purpose stadiums.
I think so.
Off the top of my head, they're the only team that plays in a multi-sport stadium. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else that would. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of been phased out for a while now.
How about
Which
the
is,
Oakland Chargers? The Chargers need a home, a place to go. And if the baseball team gives it up, let's retrofit it to a football stadium and give the Oakland fans something to cheer about. The LA fans got no love for the Chargers, so let's send Chargers down there or up there.
Yeah, I don't know what they have baseball stadiums in San Diego that are of a greater capacity. But yeah, it's interesting story. One to keep an eye on for sure. Yeah.
Another option would be the New York Giants, New York Jets situation. Same stadium and opposite times. You know, they could
Mhm.
use their current MLB stadium, and just play
Yeah.
opposite schedules.
That's why I'm surprised they didn't. Maybe that was an option
Well-
and it just wasn't feasible in terms of sharing with the Giants. Maybe
But
they don't have a good
That's the
relationship
problem.
with
You're
them, but-
playing a lot. You're playing 81 home games.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true.
It's much more difficult in baseball,
Yeah,
right?
much more difficult. Where in
Yeah,
football,
that's a good point, actually.
you're only playing once a week.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
guess
good
that
point.
grass
Yeah,
would get
I
torn
didn't
up
think
pretty
of that.
bad.
Yeah. So I think ground sharing's not really possible in modern day baseball given the schedule, right?
Yeah, I mean, because you're gonna, you're gonna have to, yeah, it's just gonna be a big mess.
Indeed. Well, I'm on the side of the fans. I'm with the A's fans. I think
I'm
they've
with the
been,
fans, yeah.
I think they've been hard done by. So, you know, I hope they find some sort of peace with the A's, and you know, I hope for the fans' sake that the owner doesn't get everything they want. So,
Yeah. Indeed.
all right, Jack, you want to
Okay,
close us out here?
All right, Blake. Well, it's another show in the never shown the book, never shown the books. Like great, Mike, Blake. It was always nice to talk to you guys. You as well, Blake. I know that we had a lot to get to for this show, but I can promise you, next week's show we will be talking a lot about a lot about the words that come on TV every once a year, which is a tournament unlike any other, the Masters the Masters tournament from Augusta National, and that's what we'll be talking about next week. But then also we're also excited that the week after I will be broadcasting live from Duke campus, and I know that you have places to be, BL Weinberger, but you are more than welcome to join me in person with Mr. Kevin and I together. We'll be joining him. That will be on April 15th. So looking forward to that, and can't wait for that. But Blake, BL Weinberger, Blake Gerke, great to talk to you. We'll see you again soon here at Guys Sports. Jack Gerke signing out. Blake, Mike, always great to hear from you, and we will talk to you and hear from you guys soon. Bye now.
Bye, Jack.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.